And the lineup, Potter at fullback, Landers and Wade, the wingers, making their debut today. Mackay and Coyne in the centres. Doyle making his second first-grade appearance at 5'8", Lanane's the half. And the forwards, Gill, Fafita, Goulet, Tierney, Bailey and Osborne. Coaches, Craig Young. And the lineup, Conlon at fullback, Kiss, French, Florimo and Thompson, Martin and Soden are the halves. And the forward lineup, Billy Moore at block forward, Fairley and Toole, the hard-working second rowers, Dave Alexander, Tony Ray, Pat Jarvis, and the coaches, Steve Martin. We don't have a huge crowd here at Cogra today. The Saints supporters must have been disappointed when the Dragons went under to Parramatta when they celebrated the opening of the grandstand. Eddie Ward, the referee, and play underway in very still conditions here at Cogra. Running it up, Paul Conlon for the Bears. North's last win at Cogra was in 1978. In fact, they've won only 6 of 24 games here at the Dragons' lair. In under 21, something of an upset there with North's defeating St George 20-14. Saints had been leading the competition, and in reserve grade, St George defeating North's 18-14 in a tight one. Good kick there from Tony Ray. Under pressure, getting a good kick in, well directed, picking up 40 metres.
Yeah, Warren, I'd be very surprised if St George didn't try to counteract Tony Ray's kicking from dummy half. He just made a good gain then. He's been doing it consistently over the last few weeks. A real danger player for the Dragons.
Lanane feeds the scrum, and it's a St George ball with Mackay. First man off the scrum base there. Picked in the centres today. Running from dummy half. There's Cameron Wade in his debut match. He'll be a little nervous. There's Mackay from dummy half, making good ground.
They might have changed them around. They might have Mackay playing 5'8" in attack.
We'll have a close look at Brad Mackay. The first penalty of the match goes to St George. Pat Jarvis in the tackle there.
Yeah, Pat just laying on the tackle player just a little bit too long.
Pat Jarvis played with St George from 77 to 86, Canterbury in 87, and then with Easts in 88, 89, and he is the one big signing that Norths have made this year. Let's have a look at the record for and against this season. Points in attack, Norths just ahead, but against is the story. North's defence has been very solid this season, conceding just 136 points, and that compares much more favourably with St George's record. Goulet plays it back. Just 25 metres out, it goes to Fafita. Crosses the 22. Bailey in a dummy half. Lanane gets the pass away. The kick in there from Doyle, and it's a good kick. Some pressure coming through from Coyne out wide, and it's just towed out over the touchline. Desperate work by Conlon, and in fact it went touch in goal.
Well, we have a look. It's a very good kick by young Rod Doyle, and just across the face. Coming through is the young centre, Mark Coyne coming through. And
Warren, I think the feature of North's players is just their control of the football. It's been very good over the past month and a half. They're kicking well too, but the chase team could probably a little bit better.
Here's Billy Moore making the bus straight up the centre, looking for support as he comes to Potter, puts it ahead. A chase going back there, racing back for it as Landers, and he carries it over the dead ball line. Great bust by Billy Moore.
Well, I think that he probably took the wrong option here. He'd been better off taking the tackle, but he did have plenty of players in support. If you have a look, there's Fairley, Les Kiss trying to get to him, but good defence also by St George. If you have a look here, young Landers coming back and cover and running the ball over the dead ball line.
And there's the boss, David Hill. We better say all the right things today. So St George with an opportunity here. No points on the board so far. We've had 12 minutes of play. Gill.
Well, I believe the player that probably they'll depend on for a big game will be Peter Gill. He's the workhorse of the St George pack, and he comes up with a good game. I think that they can go a long way towards winning this game.
Penalty goes against Greg Florimo, interfering in the tackle. Florimo looked in anguish at the referee, as if to say, "I didn't do it, sir." But he certainly had his hand pinned underneath Gill there, and it didn't look as if Gill was holding his hand under his armpit.
Looking very much like a Rod Reddy, Peter Gill.
But you can still miss them from there. 13 metres out, right in front. Rod Doyle makes no mistake, and the first points are on the board to St George, and they lead 2-0.
Especially if Ricky Stewart's on the other side.
Landers runs into some tough defence from Jarvis. He bounced away from him, but they couldn't escape Toole. Also Alexander.
Pretty fair prospect, Landers. Warren, he weighs about 95 kilos. He comes from a family that's always been interested in bodybuilding and sport. And he's having a fair game out there.
Very much involved. There's a good run from Coyne too. The penalty goes against Mark Coyne for moving off the mark. Trying to walk into Florimo, put a little bit of pressure on Florimo.
Well, if you have a look, he struggles with the tackle, but he goes for a walk. I thought the penalty was justified.
A little bit of a nudge with the knee coming in there from David Fairley as well, just to put Coyne off. It's fair enough for the referees to crack down on players walking off the mark, because if you walk forward into the tackler, well, you immediately get tangled up, and obviously it's usually the man who interferes with you trying to play the ball that concedes the penalty, but sometimes there's a bit of gamesmanship in it.
Well, I think he's just gone for a crawl.
Paul Conlon to attempt the goal. Metres gained so far in the match, dead even, 503 apiece. The time held, St George leading the way, almost doubled North Sydney's degree of possession there.
That could be a telling factor later on the game.
This is 36 metres out for Paul Conlon, just to the left of the uprights. No wind. Conlon moves into this long-range goal, hits it well, has plenty of distance, and the flags are up. That's a great kick from Conlon. Got the distance easily, and that levels the scores at 2-2 after 20 minutes. Coyne struggles halfway through. Elliott, he loses his footing. It must be just a little soft in that particular area. We can see some of the mud just scuffing up. The surrounds of the oval here are very, very wet still. Here's Goulet, pops his arm through for Coyne. Coyne has pace, racing down the touchline. Leaves Toole behind, support inside, gets it away to Wade, and Wade is racing away for a first try in his first match for St George in first grade. Great work from St George. Goulet, good lead up. St George, 6 points to 2.
We have a look.
No mistake made with it there. So Doyle adding the extras, and St George skip away to a lead of 8 points to 2. 30 metres out. Soden, Martin. Long ball behind French. Crushes away from Coyne. Away from Lenane. French still going. Great run Ian French. Left 3 behind him. Changing direction. It's the last tackle on the 22. Florimo puts it high. Soden is flying through. It's a difficult one for Potter. He loses it. Soden's there. It's bouncing in the in-goal area, and North have fallen on it for a try. North have fallen on the bouncing ball. I think it's Adrian Toole. It was eluding everyone, including Potter and Soden, and finally the other fellas arrived. Florimo put it up. This was a very difficult one for Potter. He wasn't well positioned in the field of play. It was coming down alongside the post. He found it out of his arms. It evaded he and Soden. Soden knocking it backwards there, and Adrian Toole forcing it fairly.
This is a great bomb for Florimo. This had snow on it. And unfortunately for Potter was in the in-goal area. He's got the post to contend with, facing backwards, costs the ball up. Have a look there. Soden a great chase, and Adrian Toole on the spot to score a great try.
And some jubilation there for Toole.
It's just what the doctor ordered for Steve Martin.
Adrian Toole, 21 years of age, formerly from Forbes in New South Wales. The kick for Conlon is right in front, and he gets Norths back on level terms. It's 8 points all here at Cogra. That's the way the Bears wanted to start. St George in a handy position.
Bruce Sinclair, they.
John Fafita takes the tackle, 25 metres out. Lanane, Gill weaves his way, finds an opening. Too much defence in the end.
Do you think we'll see the field goal from Steve Lanane shortly?
8 points all. In it goes to Tierney, flicks it back to Elliott. Good pass, on it goes to Doyle. Doyle for the line, held by Soden. He gets over the line, did he get it down? Referee Eddie Ward right over the top, says no, he was short. Bailey tries to go wide, slips a pass away. It's a try to St George. Mick Potter has scored, coming in, hitting the line hard. Bailey read it well, just moving away from the dummy half to pick up the runner. And that's a good piece of work in close. Bailey found that a North player moved up quickly on the edge, forced him to go across field, but Potter was there, took the pass, ducked under the tackle of French, and scored a good St George try.
This is great work by Bailey. We've got Tierney comes through, draws the crabs off, creates the hole, and Potter comes through. This is a result of some good lead-up work by Peter Gill. Once again, sees that someone moves off their line, Bailey. Tierney takes a few tacklers, defenders, and Mick Potter coming through to put down what seems to be, could be a match-winning try.
Second try for Mick Potter. And the Dally M Player of the Year back in 1984. It seems a while back. Doyle has a very important conversion here. Moves in. Hits it well. And the flags are up. So St George lead by 6 points. 14 points to 8.
St George are missing blokes like Osborne, who normally take the first 2 rucks. Matty Elliott's showing the way here.
Elliott bursts straight through some weak defence. Takes the tackle and hangs onto the ball. Nothing wrong with that. St George go on with it now. Mark Coyne. Great pace from Coyne. Shooting away from dummy half. Great run. There was nothing there for him, and he just shot straight through. He created that opening. It wasn't there for him when he started. Tierney. Loose pass. Taken by Elliott. Flips it away to Landers. Landers for the line, and he scores. Landers has scored what could be a winning try. St George lead by 18 points to 8, and that was fine hands. This winger has had a good game today, Kurt Landers. He's done everything that could be asked of him in his debut match. St George moved the ball wide. Coyne had turned them around. The pass flung out there finally by Elliott, and Landers hurls himself for the corner and Tierney, but it certainly did the job in the end. He went to the defence, realised the numbers were out wide, got the loopy pass away. Elliott carried it on to Landers.
Well, they paid the penalty on the 5th tackle, not getting off their line. They were just waiting around to see what was going to happen, and it did happen. They come up with the try, St George.
Landers, a former beach sprint champion and schoolboy sprint champion. And both wingers have scored tries for St George in their debuts. Cameron Wade and Kurt Landers. Doyle attempts the conversion right on the touchline. It's a good-looking kick, but just fades past that right-hand upright. And the score remains St George 18, Norths 8. Thompson, McGowan. McGowan is sharp off the mark. 5th tackle, it goes back to French. Slips it to McGowan. McGowan takes a tackle. I'm sorry, that was the 4th tackle. 5th coming up now. Soden. Soden puts it high. Plenty of pressure on Potter. Florimo fires and takes the ball and will score the try. Great work from Greg Florimo. He's been chasing those bombs all day long. He got through and went high, took it out of the arms of Potter and twisted over the line. So Norths aren't finished yet. They're down by 6 points. Great bomb here from Soden. This one really brought snow as well. Potter was underneath it. Nothing he could do except wait for it to come down. Florimo on the run was able to generate the lift to get over the top of him and plunges over for a valuable try.
If you have a look here, you could believe that the ABC has switched over to Victoria Park in Melbourne. This is a great take by Florimo here. They've scored 2 tries and both of them been the result of bombs.
Greg Florimo's nickname is Skater, second try for the year. A reserve for the New South Wales Origin side in '88. Played City Origin both years, of course, both the last couple of years. Now Paul Conlon, an important kick here. Can he get them inside this 6-point barrier? No, he pulls it to the left, and the score remains St George 18, North Sydney 12. Elliott plays it forward. Goes a little closer to the posts. Lenane is right behind the ruck. Bailey at dummy half. Back it goes for Lenane. Has all the time in the world. Doesn't put in a good kick, though. Conlon came through on him very late.
And a shocker, wasn't it? It's one of your attempts, Jack. Or something like poor old Dallas Donnelly, God bless his soul.
Yeah, it wasn't too good. At least it went good World Cup goal, wasn't it? Lenane to play it back. Coyne, who's had a good game, Mark Coyne.
All the young players for St George have fared very well. They've earned their spurs today and they've justified it.
Well, there's no substitute for enthusiasm, and St George have had just that little bit more today, but neither side would be too proud of that effort, I wouldn't think. The siren has gone. The St George fans streaming onto the ground here in Cogra. The big flags are waving. I guess they haven't had all that much to celebrate this season, but they have today. St George have defeated North Sydney by 18 points to 12.